Yo, coming to you live from World Championship in San Jose. Welcome to the Living Legends podcast.
So hello and welcome back to the Living Legends podcast. I'm your host for today. My name's Az from Goarin Gaming. And as always, we're going to be joined by my two favourite people in Flesh and Blood. We got, first of all, we got Bill from Spike Feeders Fab.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode where, again, I say this every time, but we got some really cool stuff to talk about today.
Oh, I'm so stoked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff. And a lot of milestone-y sort of things as well going on with the OP stuff. Some nice numbers coming out of that, which I'll go through as well. And as well as that, we have Kel as well, Mr. Red Zone Rogue.
Hello. I am so stoked to talk about this. We're going to talk about outsiders. We're going to talk about other stuff. If there's anyone in the Flesh and Blood community that is excited about outsiders, it's going to be us three here. We
absolutely
love the pits. I've been waiting for a pit set ever since they gave me Knock the Death Whistle as a preview card in Arcane Rising, dude. I'm so stoked. I cannot contain how excited
exactly.
I am.
Just imagine when White Rabbit Community Game Store gets us back, he's gonna be like, right, Az and Kel, we're gonna do the pits one this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than the Arcane Rising one.
Exactly. And if you've seen my other 30-minute video going over the pits, we will be talking about maybe some other stuff that wasn't in that video. So if you've already seen the video, stay tuned for more stuff. So we're gonna talk about more stuff. I have theories. They're maybe crazy, they're maybe hopium, but they are theories.
We have theories.
We have theories. Exactly.
We have lots of theories. So yeah, that's going to be the main speculation and what we know and what we don't know and all that sort of thing going into outsiders. But before we go into that, I just want to touch on the article about organised play from James.
Yeah.
So to sum up as well, this is I'm not going to sum it up straight away. We're going to go into some little bits. But there's nearly been 1 million games of Flesh and Blood played over the last year or so. I think it was like 930,000 or something like that. So nearly 1 million games of Flesh and Blood.
And that's accounted for in gem number of games played. So the number of games outside of that was probably I don't know, double or whatever. How many times do you play Flesh and Blood that's not ranked? Probably way more than actual ranked. So
well, how many times do you and Ian play Flesh and Blood? There's at least 2 million on there.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? Almost all of my games, I hardly ever play ranked because I don't have a lot of time to make it out to the events. So that's awesome. Wow. I really want to see that number next year be well over 1 million. I think that would be so cool. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah, if they start registering things like, if Gem starts registering things like UPF and PvE and all the casual stuff that's coming out as well, that's going to go through the roof, that number, I think. If they start registering things like that. Yeah. Start holding events for UPF and that.
Social. I'm trying to get folks to say social instead of casual for whatever reason, because a lot of folks have negative connotations with casual for what, because gamers are oh, it's casual, so it must be less I don't know, skill intensive or whatever. So I like to use words.
It's a good word to use. Yeah, it's a good word to use. Social gaming rather than casual. So social means you're in it to play with friends and have fun, sort of thing. Yeah.
If you played any degree of multiplayer for a decent amount of time, you'll know that it can be anything but casual. There are those people who play in something like Commander or whatever, who play with those sweaty combo decks where they're I just need this card and then I combo search for this card and then I get this and it has this trigger. But but in response to my trigger on the stack, I do this other thing. So activate Lion's Eye Diamond. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
going into the combos of MTG already. Holy moly.
Yeah. So for Flesh and Blood, it could be similar too. I played Valda in UPF and gotten 20-something seismic surges and was able to one punch man someone for 20-something damage before.
It's always a good feeling.
Was it pulverize? Yeah, pulverize and pummel onto pulverize. Oh, it's nice. it's real nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
So good way to start off. Nearly 1 million games played. That's always going to climb as we go into next year. Next year is going to be a good year, as you've said yourself as well, Kel, on your recent video.
Best year.
2023 is going to be a fantastic year for the game. That's for sure.
Calling it now. Best year yet for Flesh and Blood. Best year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I was out yesterday with some friends from high school that I haven't gotten a chance to hang out with in a while, and one of them is one of the guys that I mentioned in one of our previous podcasts that joined our local Discord. Sorry?
Does he have your enlightened strikes? That guy?
No, that's another local. That's another local player.
I will find him.
I might actually need to stop by our LGS tomorrow because tomorrow's usually the day that guy is able to show up, and I haven't had these enlightened strikes in hand for like 3 months, so set them back. But there's one of my buddies from high school that just joined our local Flesh and Blood server that I created, and he had no idea. And so I kind of I poked him and gave him a hard time, like, "Oh, you thought you could sneak in without me knowing?" And so I didn't get a chance to play. There was a CC event that we were going to play in on like the Monday after. I think I mentioned that, and he ended up not being able to make it. But this Monday, he said absolutely. So I'm putting together a Blitz Lexi deck for him. And then while we were talking about that last night, one of my other friends overheard and was like, "Hey, what's this game you guys are talking about? This sounds interesting."
Quick, I don't want to tangent too much. Quick aside, because this is not on a topic for today. Lexi just won Battle Hardened Singapore 9-0. So Lexi is not down and out. 9-0 Battle Hardened Singapore Lexi win. So Lexi, good place to start. One of my favorite heroes in the game. Top three for me. So yeah.
Is there any information on the list at all or anything? Like
it was literally shared like this morning.
Okay.
So I don't know much about it. I'm sure they'll have a list. The Flesh and Blood website. This is good information for anyone out there who's new or doesn't really follow competitive Flesh and Blood stuff. The official Flesh and Blood website, fabtcg.com, always lists winning decks on their official website. So if you just go there, you can find it. It's at the top. I don't remember exactly which thing you click on, but you can find all the lists. It'll probably be posted in the next couple days or so. By the time this video comes out, it's probably already out. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what spice brought this guy to 9-0.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it was class constructed as well. It's particularly interesting to me because I didn't think Lexi got all that much great stuff in Dynasty. I thought Heatseeker was really good, but outside of Heatseeker, I was like, I'm not really sure what else Lexi could use. All the other stuff really cares about aim counters, and I like the bow, but I don't like it in Lexi because Voltaire is just kind of busted. So, I don't know. I'm really eager to see the deck. So,
yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, she can go quite a few different ways, can't she? She can go obviously all lightning, nothing at all, which is what you do, and then maybe like tall ice builds as well. But you can go loads of different ways.
That's probably in a different box. I actually built what I call No Fuse 2.0 deck that I'll be doing a deck tech on in the next next couple weeks or so. That's my Blitz, my Blitz Lexi, but with no fusions. Which is just
using that Voltaire.
Just using Voltaire. It's really good. Just giving all your arrows go again or +1 if you need to. It's super good. You can use it twice.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Speaking of Lexi as well, actually, when I mentioned last week that I'm going to that Christmas thing with to the Armory event, they're doing a Tales of Aria draft, so I'm probably going to go with Lexi with that. Probably
it's Lexi. I've done a lot of Tales of Aria draft. Lexi. Hey man, you're fighting the Ranger fight. Basically, it's like it's the hardest one. Yeah, it's the hardest one to get good because the bow's great. Like Shiver's great, just giving dominate to your arrows if you need dominate. And Bolton Shot's really good, but sometimes you don't get Bolton Shot. Sometimes you have like just a bunch of crappy arrows, and you play against Briar who just arcane damages you out, and you can't do anything about it.
True.
So good luck. I wish you good luck. I hope you draft some awesome Lexi stuff. I hope you get a New Horizon at least, and then you can just be like
New Horizon and Voltaire.
Then I'll
be okay. Yeah, then I'll be all right.
I have gotten a Voltaire, or just draft Ball Lightnings, man. Like seriously, just take Ball Lightnings. Take as many Ball Lightnings as you can. That is my advice for anyone playing Tales of Aria draft. Take Ball Lightning. Just take them. Just take them. Take all of them. They're all overpowered. Take them all. Yeah. And if you get Ball Lightning, take Mark of Lightning, the equipment, because it actually works. So there you go.
God, Tales of Aria. Wow. throwback.
Free damage.
Free damage.
Yeah.
But going back to OP very quickly.
Yes.
So the structure remains the same with regards to the way you get to like your Pro Tours and World Championships. It all starts at local game store, of course, and then working your way up from there and getting your PTIs and what have you. So that all remains the same. But there is what I noticed on the article, what a lot of people noticed, there isn't a roadmap per se. So there still isn't like this is the plan for the whole year. There still isn't that to a certain degree, which is what a lot of people were wanting. You know, is some forward plan where they can say, right, I can go to this on this day. But it says on the article that they are still ironing that out and hoping to have that more of a dynamic announcement process going into the first quarter at least. So
it feels like they're kind of overhauling it all, and I think from what I know, and I don't think I can say too much because I've talked to some folks in like confidence and whatever, but I think they're just kind of like reorganizing some, like who is kind of overseeing a lot of this kind of stuff. And I think that's why it maybe is taking a little bit longer to get the information out. There might be new folks kind of doing it. We had Alan Hale on the podcast a couple weeks ago, but he oversees the non-premier events. So like your skirmishes, your in-store events, basically. Whereas the higher level stuff, like the premier events, are he doesn't really do that kind of stuff. So
that's probably what he was alluding to, wasn't it? When he was on the podcast, he said there was going to be an announcement. This is probably what he was alluding to, wasn't it? This one
for sure. And we had a little bit. So we have a bunch of battle hardens announced, and we have 2 callings, and then we also know that the Pro Tour is going to be in the United States, but we don't know where yet. Fingers crossed, because once again, very selfish of me. Fingers crossed it's on the Pacific Northwest. I want it to be in Seattle. Well, I would love for it to be in Portland, but I'm being realistic here. You know, Seattle maybe. Just come on, Pacific Northwest. There has not been a single big event in the Pacific Northwest, so I would love it. And it's awesome up here. Come on, Seattle's great.
So there's one Pro Tour. Hopefully, we see it in an area where we can all go here.
Seattle.
But it is saying it's in late April or early May. So as long as all of us here can sort of keep that aside, will we all be going? Do you think?
So I'm specifically, my plan is to like aggressively make time to go.
So
nice. Okay.
What they're doing, and Az might talk more about this in a minute, but what they're doing is each set is going to have its own kind of like season, culminating with a big premiere event. So we have Outsiders, and that culminates in is it Pro Tour? And then we have the next set, which is going to be an expansion set. We don't know anything about that, but that's going to culminate with Nats, so Nationals. And then we have the third set, which is going to be another draft set, and that'll culminate in Worlds at the end of the year. And so what that basically means is you have a big set kind of tying this all together with kind of like it bookended by these draft sets, which I think is really great, because that means Pro Tour will probably have limited of Outsiders as part of its event, and same with Worlds. Worlds will probably have limited of the third set as part of its thing, which I think is great. I think that's awesome for people who are pros, and so you can kind of plan a little bit ahead, so like, hey, I need to know this draft environment in order to be successful. And so we have a little bit of an outline, a little bit of a skeleton here. We don't have a lot of exact dates, but they did kind of lay it out a little bit, which is good. So at least you kind of know what's going on next year and what their plans are for OP.
Yeah, exactly. So if you wanted to like save yourself, like if you only had a certain travel budget or holiday restrictions, if you're working in the office, at least you know that there's a big draft set coming out in March, which will last until June, and then the other draft set is October to January. So you got some sort of time frame that you can work with if you want to make yourself available for a new draft or just an expansion set or whatever you want to do, really. Which is, I guess, it's better than nothing.
That reminds me. I want to ask you guys a question, and I'll ask this to the audience too. Out of those 3 events, or maybe other events, which one, if you can have to budget your time, which a lot of us do, even I have to budget like my travel expenses and time, which one do you want to go to the most? Do you want to go to the Pro Tour, Nationals, or even Worlds at the end? Or, let me throw out another wrench here, what if they do World Premiere events? They didn't talk about this at all, but what if they do a World Premiere event for Outsiders or for the third mystery set?
Premiere
I feel
event
like
would be so cool.
It would, yeah.
They're really
it
fun.
would be good. It would be good. However, for me, I think if I was to go to the US again, it would be for Pro Tour because of the fact that's where everyone's going to converge again, like from all over the place. So I think it will be Pro Tour or Worlds, depending on where Worlds is, but we don't know that yet. So I think I'm going to hedge. I think I'm going to potentially hedge my travel bets in the Pro Tour, April, May, and hopefully you guys will be there as well, or at least plan to be there. But yeah, that's probably what I'll probably do. I expect.
Yeah, it is extremely likely that I will be there.
I have a hierarchy, so this is the way I've thought about it, because I can't make it to all the events unless they hire me to do coverage at a bunch of them. If I'm not doing coverage at the event, I have a hierarchy. I can really only make a couple. And my hierarchy is, if it's in the U.S., Worlds. Worlds is number one. So I prioritize Worlds over the rest because Worlds was awesome, and I know they want to go all out, and I know they want to go even bigger than Worlds number one, because I know some folks are a little bit disappointed in the venue and a lot of other stuff. So I know they want to make it even more grand and better. So that's probably like the most exciting event. And then after that's actually the world premiere events, because those are like so much fun. I've done both world premiere events so far, and like Aria and Uprising, and I tell you, playing with all the brand new cards like a month before anyone else gets to, and playing like in the world premiere sealed, and just drafting with all the new cards and everything for the whole weekend is just so much fun. And that one I think is my the next one. No matter what, if there's going to be a world premiere for Outsiders and they have one in the US, I'm going. Like, there's no way I'm not going to the Pits world premiere event. I mean, come on, like, I'm going. So that's one that I am. If it's there, I'm going to. My guess, if they had one, it would probably be tied to the calling before the set comes out. So that would be my guess, because that's what they did for Uprising. But they didn't talk about world premiere, so we don't even know if they're doing that. Just speculation.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, if there's information if there's information that comes out that says, right, there's a world premiere for Outsiders in USA, and it's not too bad to get there when it's like March time, that might take precedent over Pro Tour for travel for me, but potentially, depending on what that is, as you said. A world premiere for where the Azalea cult is based, I need to be there, really.
I think for a lot of folks who are not tournament grinders trying to get like top 8 prizing, I think world premiere events you're gonna have a lot more fun, just straight up. It's just sense. Like a great time to play with the community with a new set. The meta hasn't been established. There's no one telling you to force Fi or whatever. You can just play whatever and have fun with the new characters and all that kind of stuff. And you know, maybe you get lucky, maybe you get a legendary and you flip it for like $200, and you know, that's the thing. People do that. People were selling the like Marvel dragons for like the actual, like the regular Marvel dragons that are worth like $20 right now. They're selling it for like 150 plus that weekend. So some people made some money.
I mean, I remember when it was the release event for Tales of Aria, and somebody pulled, like within the first half an hour, somebody pulled a cold foil Corsham.
Yes.
And I think it got sold to one of the vendors, and I saw a picture, and it was selling for like $5,000 or something. Like, not selling, but they had it priced for $5,000.
I remember that, man. That's one of the coolest moments that I've experienced in Flesh and Blood. I wasn't sitting anywhere near them. I was sitting at one end of the hall, but you just hear this, and then everyone just like looks, and the dude just stands up and then holds the card up. It's just like, it's so cool. I've never experienced anything like that before. It was so awesome. world premiere events are so good, and you'll hear it like when you're sitting down, everyone's opening up their packs, just chatting with folks at the table, and then someone you hear, yeah, and someone over there, and you're like, oh, they pulled something great. And then like
Yeah.
for Uprising, I pulled a cold foil Coronet Peak, and I'm like, yo, and everyone was like, yo.
Yeah, it's just like it looks like such a like I don't know, such a community event where
so
everybody is happy for everybody and everybody's just excited for the same thing. Like it's so organic.
Yeah, highly recommended. Highly recommended.
Because everyone's discovering it at the same time, isn't it? So it's like all shared happiness.
Yeah, it's such a good time. So yeah.
Cool. You've changed my mind. If there's a date that's spoiled for that, then I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, and the last thing I want to touch on the OP events is that they said they want to make a lot of events closer to home per se, to cut back on the travel part of it, because there's a lot of things all over the place last year, but they're increasing the frequency of the battle hardened events to, I think they're doing 50 now next year.
Yeah.
And they're also changing the callings prize structure in order to support it in areas that have smaller communities, like Japan, maybe.
Japan, I know. Shout out to both
somewhere else.
Japan and Brazil. Brazil has a very like vocal community that they really want stuff to be held there. Like shout out to the folks listening or watching who are from Brazil or Japan. I know both communities watch our podcast. So I would love for them to be in your area too, and I know the LSS would as well. They just, we had Alan on. He said there's like just logistical things that make it difficult, but they want to. So calling in Japan, battle hardened in Japan. Let's make it happen. And also LSS, if you're listening, calling in Japan. I would love to do some coverage. Please pay me to go to Japan. That would be great. Just saying.
You call up James White and you're like, Ohio gozaimasu.
What's that?
Hey, Ohio, Red Zone Road Desu.
Hey, I talked to some people from LSS, some high people from LSS at Worlds, and they were like, "Hey, we'd love to get you back in the coverage booth next year." And I'm like, "Yeah, just let me know. I would love to." And if you want someone to go to Japan to do coverage, I'm your man. So
absolutely,
hell yeah.
That literally a dream of mine, to get paid to go to places in the world that I've always wanted to visit. New Zealand is one of them. Japan is another one. So,
exactly.
It feels like you're uniquely positioned to maybe get those done. Then that's so crazy.
I don't speak Japanese, but I know you don't have to. At least in the big cities, you don't have to speak Japanese to get around.
Yeah.
And I know enough to maybe get by. It's
can't wait to see where they go. The calling, it's going to be interesting.
I do want to mention one thing with that. So you said more battle hardens. It's 50. It's up from 30. So I think it was 30 last year, up to 50. So it's like
something like that. Yeah,
almost double. Not quite, but almost double, which is awesome. I also noticed, and this came up in a little Facebook chat with Ian Kenderdine and Dean Ramada and some other folks, and they were saying, or Ian was pointing out that the prize or the pricing for entry has gone up quite a bit, and I find that interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about it, and I'm not sure if it's due to like inflation, due to new tournament organizers, or due to the new pricing structure. But I did notice that it did go up, not just in New Zealand. Ian said it went up to $100 in New Zealand. And
battle hardens.
The calling. So the calling Auckland, I think, costs $100 to participate in. Right. And that's not like a package, like a cool swag package. That's like base entry.
Yeah, that's like just to get through the door.
And I think if you translate that into US dollars, I think it's like $68 or something like that, $64. And then I noticed, I clicked on the calling that's going to be in Indianapolis in the US, and it's $70 US. So it went from 50 to 70. So that's a decent increase in price. Once again, I don't know if it's because Star City Games is hosting it instead of Channel Fireball. Channel Fireball, if you don't know, is no longer going to be doing Flesh and Blood event. In fact, Channel Fireball doesn't exist anymore. In fact, the people who ran Worlds, they weren't actually Channel Fireball. It was what was the card? Card Shop Live. It was Card Shop Live. Channel Fireball actually is now owned by TCG Player. So if you see anything that's Channel Fireball branded these days, it's actually TCG Player. TCG Player owns it. I know this because I make content for Channel Fireball, and it's actually TCG Player. Like, I submit my invoices to TCG Player. So I don't know if the price increases because of that too, because it's like, being run by different folks. I hesitate on that assumption because it seems like it's a price increase for all of the events, like in Auckland, because like SEG isn't running the Auckland event. So I don't know. It's just something I wanted to point out. I'm not sure how I feel about it one way or another. I'm generally not happy about like things getting more expensive.
No.
Makes it kind of tough to really be excited about them when you also have to worry about your finances at the same time.
So I don't want to get like too negative or dwell too much on it, but like for me, it's like it disincentivizes folks who are more casual. I said I don't want to use the word casual, but that are more casual about it, right? So it heavily incentivizes enfranchised pro players, or it only caters to enfranchised pro players, because if that price increase is going to prizes, then only the people who think they're going to win and cash out will receive anything, and for the people who go like 0-4 drop are just spending more money to get nothing. So for those folks who are just like, I want to go to have fun, just to play in the event, having it more expensive is can dissuade a lot of folks.
There is a counterpoint to that as well, though. On the article, it does say that they're going to give prizes to more of the people that like maybe the top 128 rather than 64. So the prizes go deeper down the scale rather than
on average, it's probably better, but it feels like more of a feel bad for the people who are getting shafted the worst. Is basically what I'm getting at. So like if you're 0-5 and you get nothing, you spent $50. You spent $50 to get nothing. Now you're spending $70 to get nothing, right? So you still have a decent chance to get more money if you're successful. But if you're not successful, then screw you, I guess. Like
it can just kind of hurt.
But on a positive note, the bundle looks rad as hell. So the SCG bundle looks rad. You get a cold foil dash as part of the bundle.
Yeah.
Bundle's $150, so it's a little expensive, but you at least get a super cool cold foil hero. So if you buy the bundle for $150, at least you get something cool. I think a cold foil hero is like one of the best like entry promos that they've done. Because like we've gotten like the Yorick ones and that kind of stuff, which are cool. I love the Yorick stuff. But I know the average Flesh and Blood player probably doesn't care about the janky UPF Yorick stuff. They probably want like Dash or whatever,
stuff that they can actually bring to their local armory and be like, hey, check out this cool thing. Like
So,
and does this obviously we'll get to the outsiders stuff in a moment. But did you think because obviously James White confirmed also that Azalea Young Hero is getting a cold foil as part of the armory kits next year as well. And obviously coupled with this Dash cold foil thing, does that mean that we're not going to see we will see support for obviously Dash and obviously Azalea because it's going to the pits, but Dash maybe have mechanologist support in the next set as well?
So I have reasons to think that we will not have mech support in Outsiders. It doesn't make sense to me if they want to have also a metric set, because that way we would have mech support and then mech support immediately after, which is fine, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me if they want to space things out. And also it might just be like they just happen to, those are the heroes that need cold foils, which I think is true. They're missing Viserai as well. So Viserai, Dash, and Young Azalea are the ones that don't have cold foil versions yet.
It's all the Arcane Rising ones. Does Kano have one?
I think Kano already has one. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think Kano already has one.
Yeah, let us know.
And I think those are the only three who don't have cold foil young versions already. So they might just be doing that to fill it out. just so people can get their cold foil versions.
Maybe.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Azalea is going to be a really interesting thing to talk about when we talk about Outsiders, because like I'm pretty confident in some assertions about Outsiders, but I think Azalea herself is an interesting one to talk about, because I don't know. Like, they could do a lot of stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's so interesting to talk about. So,
yeah, we'll go into it now. Then, obviously, Outsiders is obviously not rumored. It's coming out on, is it March the 24th? Is it 24th or 23rd, 24th?
I want to say it's like 22 to 24 is pre-release weekend or something.
Yeah, maybe that's what the dates are.
I have to look, but around then.
It's around then, yeah.
Yeah.
And we had the image spoiled. It was only on the socials. It's not part of an article or anything. It's just on the, or is it? You're putting your finger up.
You are right. Outsiders comes out March 24th. So the official, not pre-release, the official launch day is March 24th. Yes.
24th. Okay, so that's right the first time. Don't doubt yourself, Az. Don't doubt yourself.
You're 100% right. Yep.
So yeah, coming out on March 24th, and with that date was a picture of something. At the time, the full image was not spoiled. We do have the full art now as well, which you can check out, which is ridiculously good.
Yeah, it's great. And I think my assumptions about it in the lore or the lore video that I did is pretty true. So I said I didn't think it was a hero, and I thought it was just going to be an action card or something, and it sounds like it is, because you can see the name of it on the full art, and I don't have it pulled up in front of me. If I can go grab it, it's called like
Wreck Havoc is called.
Yeah, Wreck Havoc. This is not a hero. I mean, it could be a hero, but it's likely not a hero. Just gives you kind of a good flavor of the set, though, and I'm pretty sure this character is from one of the many gangs that rule the pits. In particular, I believe they are from the Flamer gang, which they're all about, like, burning stuff, and that's exactly what
Torched.
Torched.
A gang of pyromaniacs with a penchant for setting everything on fire, which this lady is absolutely doing with this kettle.
Yeah, yeah, it's like
scalding hot tea.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's like attached to the backpack that she has. So it's like this backpack is just pumping like fuel into this flamethrower. That's like billowing out smoke. A lot of folks were talking about the pirate hat in the art. There's like a pirate hat
so much
on a hook
going on,
and people were like DM Armada, pirate confirmed, and I'm like,
pirate confirmed.
It's probably not a hero, so probably not a pirate, but there definitely is a tricorn hat on there.
On her vessel of dead bodies as well.
Yeah,
bloody hell, like sat on loads of dead people.
She's got a lot of stuff on her though. She's got like a spiky bone tooth necklace thing that looks very brutish. A lot of people are like, "Oh, brute, mech brute." I love seeing the speculations, because a lot of them are just really out there.
No.
I think I think a lot of the time people are just speculating on what they want. Like they're like, mech brute, shadow mech.
Yeah, shadow mech, get out of here.
Yeah,
seriously, get out of there. There's not going to be a demonstratory dash.
There's a small amount of lore that could suggest Shadow, but I doubt it. And we could talk about that when we talk about some of the cults that are in the pits. So there's one in particular that I think makes
the Azalea cult,
sense. Well, no, Azalea, not Shadow. I will bet money we will not see a Shadow Azalea. I'll say that much.
No thanks.
What we might see is a Pits talent Azalea, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I also hope not. So yeah, I don't think we should get. She hasn't earned that yet. I don't think she hasn't earned, like, from a gameplay perspective, that and living legend points and all that sort of thing. She hasn't earned the right to have another hero yet. I don't think. We probably could. There hasn't the only character we've had that's ascended to that level has come in an expansion set with Bravo, right?
Yeah. So we're not... That's what I wanted to mention with Azalea, actually. Like, I kind of don't think she will be in Outsiders. I think if we see Azalea as a new card, it will be in an expansion set with the Bravo treatment. So maybe it'll be an expansion set, and she'll have the new talent that was introduced in Outsiders. As a game, someone who thinks about game design a lot, that makes sense to me, right? You could have her in the set, right? That's definitely a possibility. Just have her in the set, but not as a majestic or anything, just like as a normal hero, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a possibility. But yeah.
I don't want it to happen. I don't want it. Not yet anyway.
I think it might. I think it might happen because
eventually. But not right now.
I think it might happen now, but just because what James said to you. He said that next year Azalea is going to be the business. Now, why would Azalea specifically be the business if she wasn't in the set instead of Ranger being the business? You know what I'm saying? Like, why Azalea?
I think he was just giving me false hope. I think he was just giving me false hope.
Just leading you along.
He was just giving me a pat on the back house saying, "Yeah, don't worry, Azalea will be the business.
Yeah.
Don't worry, mate. Off you go. See you later."
He sees another video
Get out of here
by the Azalea cult, and he's like, "Oh my god,
here we go again."
James,
here he is.
I did recently speak to James for just a little bit, recently in like the last couple of days, and he did say, among other things, that he thinks that I will like Outsiders. Which, I mean, obviously I'm going to like Outsiders because of the pits, but I don't want to read too much into it. But my favorite classes are Assassin and Ranger. And if they if they were both in the set, oh my god, dude. I'll be so stoked if Assassin and Ranger are both in the set.
I reckon they will be. I reckon they will definitely both be in there, but I don't think it's going to be Azalea. I reckon it will be it could even be a dual class Ranger, like an Assassin Ranger. It could be something like that.
I doubt dual class, just because of two reasons. First is that I'm pretty sure they were testing out dual class with the Emperor, and they wanted to see the community feedback and the power level, and so they need a couple sets time to implement that. Right, so they won't be immediate. So if they do another class, and they were trying to get feedback on power level from the community, it's going to be a few sets. And the other reason is lore. In the Emperor's lore page, it says that he's the only human powerful enough to wield two classes in raid.
That's true. Yeah.
He's dead now. He's dead now.
I will say, human powerful enough.
Yeah.
We do have a nitro mechanoid.
Yes.
But what I'm getting at is I think they're definitely exactly. I think there could be another dual class, but it would be a very prolific character on the level of the Emperor, right? Someone who's super powerful, super lore relevant, not just like, you know, a random thug from like the pits or whatever, you know.
True. Oh yeah.
Like it would be like some godly being, right? Or some you know, character.
It's like in the manga for One Punch Man, where One Punch Man ends up actually fighting literal God.
Yeah,
We'll have to get to that point in Flesh and Blood where we have like KO going up against the entirety of like heaven in the form of Solana.
The Aces.
The Celestial Cataclysm plus the Enlightened Strike guys actually become characters, and you just fight
exactly. Exactly.
Like Zeus versus bloody whatever.
So
right. Anyway, going back onto this. This is what it's all about. There's some good debates going on here as well. But going back to the gangs quickly as well, because obviously that was what kicked it all off. This I think would be what Brian and Flake and all the people that are saying, "Oh, this is going to be a great draft set." I reckon the gangs are to do with this, similar to like Guilds of Ravnica from Magic. The gangs, because all the gangs on the page, you can go and read it. You can go listen to Kel's video on the Azalea cult. We touch on the gangs as well, but they're all very different. They've all got very different characteristics, and I think with the Pit's talent, will probably pull on some of these strings where you can choose like maybe affiliations with two or something like that. Similar to how Tales of Aria worked, where you can choose either, well, you can't choose, but you have access to either lightning or earth or ice. Maybe in this you have access to Freak Show or Numbskulls or Blockheads or Torched or some mixture of.
That is a very interesting theory for the talents. It's not one that I thought of. For the talents, I didn't really talk about talents in my video because there's not a lot to go off of. There's only like a couple
No.
things. I think the most prevalent one is one that I saw a lot of comments, and this is what I thought too, is some sort of poison or necrotic or toxic type talent. I think toxic sounds the best, but also hilarious, because like toxic also means other things, like having a
another toxic player.
Having a toxic rune blade would be hilarious. But
that would be funny, yeah.
But I think I also like the idea of death. I think death just sounds cool. It sounds super edgy, but it's definitely like very like pits, because there's like just a lot of death in the pits.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
on the pits border as well, there's like a barrel of like leaking like green fluid on the border.
So that's one of the like supporting arguments for like poison or toxic or something like that, because it's like it's like in the border. So that could be. I like your idea of like the gangs playing into it. I think that's kind of cool. I think
because they said that this is a Drafter's Paradise, right? So what's a Drafter's Paradise look like? It means you can. I'm no good at draft, but what does it look like? Does it mean that you can stay open the whole way round and then choose to?
I have ideas.
20 crack baubles.
Crack baubles, yeah.
20 poison chalices.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts on that. I love limited in draft. It's one of my favorite ways to play any card game. If you ask any Flesh and Blood player what is the best draft set, I would bet way more than half of them are going to say Welcome to Wraith. And I think they're going to say that because there's a lot of generics, and you can kind of stay open, and it's easier to pivot into one character, than other sets like with talent, right? Because talent, even picking talent cards, puts you into like one or two heroes, right? Arya did it really well, but I don't think it's going to be like Arya. Well, I mean, I guess it could be like Arya, but my guess is that there's going to be one Pitts talent, or maybe split into gangs or something. But I think there'll be one Pitts talent, 4 heroes, and it'll play out almost exactly like Welcome to Wraith, where the Pitts talent you could basically use like generics, right? Because all of the heroes will have the Pitts talent. And so you can draft them to stay open, but maybe some of them are better in other heroes, right? So maybe there's an assassin who really cares about attack reactions, and you want the attack reaction Pitts cards, but like because they're better for your assassin or whatever. But like the big brute or whatever one other the classes doesn't really want the razor reflex analog. They want the big brutish attacks or whatever, the big
the blockhead cards.
Exactly, the thug cards or whatever. So that's my guess and also hope, and it makes sense to me. It also makes sense to me knowing who helped design the set, Brian Gottlieb, who's also a big fan of limited and draft, and I imagine this is how it's going to be. It could be super complicated or whatever, but everyone's saying it's like the best draft environment. So that's my guess. 1 Pitts talent, 4 heroes, all of them Pitts heroes, all of them Pitts talent heroes. So you could, when you're drafting, you could pick generic cards, you can pick Pitts cards to stay open, and then if you find your lane, you can pick the class cards, right?
So maybe there's like you can take the Pitts cards and they do an effect by themselves, but then if you like, similar to how fuse works, if you fuse it with the elements that you've already got from the other cards, it gets an additional effect. So maybe you get an additional effect if you're a certain hero or whatever, something like that.
Something like that. I think doing that and then designing the Pitts cards to work with all the heroes, but some heroes use them better, is just good game design and leads for more fun drafts. Less crack baubles and that kind of stuff. So that's my hope. That's also what I think. That's my hope, and that's what I think.
Nice. Cool. And obviously, another thing we can touch on as well is the skullduggery, which is the sort of jobs and things you can come to expect that are roaming around the pits. We have smuggler, mercenary, assassin, information trader, and apothecary. So a lot of people have been saying, maybe an alchemist, because alchemist is in the lore book, isn't it?
That's what I said too. Yeah. One thing I want to mention before we get into this, because it does get into this, is the number of heroes. So the number of heroes, we don't know for sure, but there has been sort of it's not a leak because it's public information, but it's a little bit of like it's like data mining. Well, people like data mine MMOs to see what the new patch is. It's kind of like that because people who are able to order Dragon Shield sleeves from distribution, they can pre-order Hero 1, Hero 2, Hero 3, and Hero 4 sleeves.
Oh wow, okay.
Yep, there are 4 hero sleeves called Hero 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are available for pre-order now. Exactly the same way that Hero 1, 2, and 3 sleeves were for pre-order for Uprising, which coincided with...
Somebody's doing God's work over there. Well done.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So...
data mining. Lovely old job.
It is a very good chance, very, very good chance that we have 4 heroes.
Cool.
Because this is exactly how it was for Uprising, and we exactly had 3 heroes for Uprising. I know there are people who are speculating on a secret 4th hero. Nope, there was 3. There
we are then.
So yeah, very, very likely that we'll have 4 for this set, which makes sense. And so now we can talk. I'm sorry to cut you off, but now we can talk about what Az was going to mention, the skullduggery, because I think that that coincides.
Yeah, that's even. Exactly. Yeah, that's even more potential fuel to have something like an alchemist, a new class. There's normally a new class, right, in these sorts of sets?
Sort of.
Give or take.
There wasn't a new class in art. Actually, we actually have not had a new draftable class since Monarch, because that's when we had Illusionist. Because Aria had 3 returning classes. Uprising had 3 returning classes. We just got Assassin. And so, once again, I like to think about game design a lot. And I was thinking, like, if I was a game designer and I wanted to have 2 new draft classes for the next set, Outsiders, the best way to ease that in is to soft launch one of those classes in the previous set. So, soft launching Assassin in Dynasty, so you already have knowledge of Assassin, you already have a pool, and then having that class get more support in the following set, and then also introducing a new class there, maybe like Alchemist, would be a great way of doing that, if that's what you wanted to do. Because it's not immediately just launching with 2 brand new classes to make it more complicated for folks. And I do think Alchemist is a really good chance. Like, it's really important to the lore. It's literally in the lore book. It makes sense for many, many reasons. It makes sense lore-wise, and like I said, it kind of makes sense game dev-wise. Like they could do it possibly. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah,
that's my thoughts on that.
Nice.
What
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see Alchemist. There's a lot of art as well, like back alley break line and that sort of Plague Doctor style stuff going on down there, and people getting experimented on and all that sort of thing. So that really fits in with like Alchemist and weird sort of Frankenstein-esque experimenters down there. So I reckon that would be well good to see a new class. And it makes sense, as you said there. I didn't think about it that way, but soft launching something in a previous set and then having another new hero here would be a good way to tackle that if they were doing that.
Yeah. What do you guys think? What are your guys' like predictions for the classes in this set?
What do you reckon, Bill?
It's I think you touched on previously, mercenary feels pretty likely. Another thing, obviously, that we know just from, it was an offhanded comment that I believe James White mentioned, that we're making a return to good old-fashioned fisticuff style combat.
Yeah.
Didn't really elaborate further on what that meant, but obviously to me, that means, I know there was somebody that was, I think, discussing in the Winnipeg Discord that, like, oh, well, like, you could argue that Runeblade is just regular fisticuff style combat, but with an extra, like, little bit of arcane damage. And I'm like, the arcane damage kind of pulls that away for me. I don't know. Like, I don't think of... When I think of good old-fashioned combat, I don't think of battle mage. I think of guy with a halberd. Like,
it literally has the word rune in the name. It's not not fist blade, it's rune blade,
Fist
muscle
blade.
wizard.
Yeah, exactly.
Muscle wizard.
Yeah.
But just casting like protein cloud things going on.
Protein cloud. Oh, that sounds gross. That
It's
sounds
just
so
pre-workout.
Yeah. Musk. Yeah.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah,
man.
but yeah, like I think that mercenary is pretty likely to see. I think it's not out of the question for us to see another assassin, or at least like building out on assassin. Even if we don't get introduced to a new one, it could be additional Arachne stuff, kind of like how we saw Icelander in Everfest, and then we also saw her in Tales of Aria. So kind of, or no, yeah, we did see her in Tales of Aria.
You're thinking about Everfest.
Yeah, we saw her in Everfest, and then and then we saw her in Uprising. Uprising.
Yeah.
But so we did see her in a supplemental set first, and then she was built out in a future set. It was a little bit more removed from that. There was a little bit of time in between, but since we're going specifically to the pits where assassins are, it feels extremely likely that we'll see
I think
more
so.
assassin stuff.
I think it's a given for assassin, isn't it?
I think it's like very likely like that we'll see assassin again.
It's the exciting new set where they did basically a full drop of a playable set, very unlike what they did with Icelander in Everfest.
Yeah,
because we had a few ways to make her playable, but I mean, I think I remember the days of proto Icelander. It was basically just Kano with a couple of Frosty cards in there.
Yeah,
deck wasn't really coherent at all. But with Arachne, we have an entire playable list of cards. So it feels like they're really they want to go in on making this class good. So
yeah, for sure.
That'd be my guess for sure.
Yeah.
So for mercenary, I thought about mercenary. I think it's a slam dunk. But do you think mercenary will be its own class, or will mercenary just allude to a character who has that profession? For example, Kasai is technically a mercenary, but she's a warrior. So do you think the mercenary would in fact just be like a warrior or a ranger or something like that? Just someone who's a mercenary in Blackjack's Tavern, one of the 22 pins, which are like these prolific characters who have unique calling cards, which I'm pretty sure we'll see one of the 22 pins as a character. That's like one of my things. I think it's a slam dunk to have one of the 22 pins as a character. We don't have confirmation if Azalea is one of the 22 pins. She probably is, but the 22 pins are like the elite mercenaries. Do you think we'll see a mercenary class, or do you think we'll see a character who is a mercenary?
I think it's just a vocation, isn't it? It's like one of the main sort of lore bits in the pits is Blackjack's mercenary group, isn't it? Yep. And that's like a collection of different contractors that do different things, I imagine. Yep. So Azalea is one of those. She's a ranger. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see, obviously, ranger. I think ranger's a slam dunk in this. But it wouldn't surprise me if we saw warrior or brute as well. Because
I could see
they
brute.
are...
Yeah. I know everyone, the Brute Nation likes to think Brute is in every set, and I'm just like, no. But like
just six attacks.
They're like, Brute's gonna be, we're gonna have a new Brute hero in Uprising, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But it does make sense here because like a big like thuggish type character totally could be a Brute. Like 100%. I can see the flavor. I can see the mechanics. I can see one of the pins being a Brute. Like maybe just like this, buff.
Yeah.
Just thuggish character who has like a big club and just smashes people. We have
just look at the blockheads lore.
Yeah,
blockheads fail melee weapons using hammers and bats to crush their opponents. They're obsessed with brute force.
Yeah,
that's literally in the description.
Yep,
gotta be.
I think
it would be a good call at least.
I think brute is pretty good guess. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
I've also heard people suggest merchant, and I think merchant would be really cool. I don't know. I'm very like hesitant on merchant. We already have a merchant from the pits. We have a cycle of merchants. We have a copper merchant, Cavdane. We have a silver merchant, Genus. We do not have a gold merchant yet, but I'm not sure if a gold merchant would fit in the pits. Maybe in metrics where everyone's rich, but pits everyone's poor in the pits, and they're just scrambling for whatever they can get.
That's right.
So I'm not sure about merchant. Ian had a great suggestion where you have 3 adult heroes, and then you have a merchant who is young only just for draft, which I was like, that's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
But I don't know about merchant.
What?
I don't know about merchant.
What if this whole year is just pits and metrics? Like the expansion set in between both is, expanding upon all things, but maybe giving us a merchant there, a gold merchant there, and then later on it's in the metrics. So the whole thing really is intertwined because the whole thing, the pits and metric is connected by that giant hole, isn't it?
The maw, yeah. So I have two theories, and one of them is just based off what you just said. We could have, so I assumed that the next set would be metrics and it would be a supplemental set and it would just be metrics, like a fully supplemental metrics themed set. And then the third set this year would be a new region, like Mysteria or whatever new region. But having all pits metrics this year could be interesting. So having a pit set and then the supplemental will be both. And then the final set of the year will just be only metrics. So you have only pits, only metrics, and then in between have a mix. I don't know. That could be cool. That could be
cool as well because especially with the way they did Dynasty this year, it's tied in with the lore as well, and the lore is very the same with pits and metrics. It's connected as one, so it makes sense if they were to flesh out this whole arc wherever it's going to have some sort of weird event in the middle and then go to metrics after that. Makes loads of sense, I reckon.
So, I do really think so. Talking about the lore a little bit and the pits. I don't think this will be in Outsiders because it doesn't make sense for a draft environment, but I do think this could happen in the supplemental or expansion set. So in the lore, there's a cult called L'Apocalypta, which is a doomsday cult, which incites major catastrophic events in the world of Wraith to ready the people for the coming of the Old Ones. Because they believe that the Old Ones are going to destroy the world and they need to put people through hardships to prepare themselves for the actual coming of the world. That sounds a lot like what Chain was doing with Solana, bringing in all of these creatures from Erathiel to, his Chain's goal is to protect the world from the Old Ones or the Aesir. We don't really know if they're the same thing yet, but that's Chain's goal. I suspect there's a good chance that Chain might actually be a member of this cult, L'Apocalypta, because it says in the lore page for the pits that the members of this cult are spread throughout all of Wraith, and they have incited some of the most catastrophic events throughout the history. And I'm just like, that's exactly what Chain is doing. I really wonder if Chain is a member of this cult.
And if he's really on the up and up, trying to protect people from something,
and not only that, because of that, I suspect we could see still in Pit's flavor, because we need a new Chain, right? Because LSS has promised that they'll have a replacement for Chain, a Shadow Runeblade to replace Chain, as well as Prism, this year, or in 2023. So my guess is that in the expansion set, still Pit's flavor, we see a Shadow Runeblade to replace Chain, one of the other members of L'Apocalyptica. So
the expansion set is going to be the Apocalypta rising up, and then it's going to be down to pits and metrics to come together to fight them, even though they're one's higher echelons and one's lower echelons. It's going to be all teaming up to fight the Apocalypta.
Possibly. It could also just be like, here's the character flavor-wise, that's who they are, they're a member of the cult or whatever. We're also going to be getting a new light illusionist to replace Prism at some point as well. That is my guess for the replacement flavor-wise for Chain, the cult member from L'Apocalypta. And I don't think it fits in draft sets because we're not actually... Because to do that, you'd have to have shadow cards, which are Demonastery flavor. And that doesn't make sense in a pit set. That's supposed to be all about the pits. To have half the cards be Demonastery just doesn't feel right to me, flavor or lore-wise.
Makes sense to expand, if you're going to expand Shadow, do it in the expansion, obviously, isn't it? So
and that's one of my hopes too. I really hope they expand the talents more in expansion sets, because we've been seeing primarily class cards in talent or in expansion sets. It'd be cool to see more talent cards in expansion sets. We saw a couple. We saw a couple in Dynasty, but not a lot. We saw a Light Warrior card. We saw Light Illusionist card, but it'd be cool to get some other stuff. So, I think it makes sense lore-wise. And I think, by the way, Apocalypta is how how the pits is tied to the greater narrative of Flesh and Blood, because the greater narrative is all about the returning old ones and the Aesir, as well as like the Olden, which are, we don't really know if we don't really know what they are. We don't know if any of these groups are the same, and if they're just different regions calling them the same thing. But like in the Arya lore, the whole point of that and the way it ended is that Lexi teamed up with like Briar and Oldhim and Yorick actually to like go seek help to help Arya against the rise of the old ones, because they think it's going to destroy everything. The same is true for Solana. The monastery is attacking Solana to like, this is backwards logic, but like they're attacking them to like protect the world from the rise of the old ones, because they believe, the monastery believes that Soul is one of these like evil like old ones. So they're attacking them to prevent that. We don't know. It could be a situation, and I like that kind of lore, by the way, where like you think like the angelic beings are actually like the bad guys. Like they're like,
that's it. It's just
I really like
good
that
storytelling,
kind of,
like being.
Yeah.
It's like that's their perspective on what's bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's good. That's
and
a
then,
good way to do it.
And even this was even tied in a little bit with the dynasty lore, because the emperor was hearing whispers of an Aesir underneath Mount Volcor, like a slumbering Aesir. That's why he's the Drakai of Aesir, because he's the one who communes with the Aesir. And now that he's dead, not communing with this Aesir and keeping them sleep,
well,
maybe they rise up and burst out of the volcano. So
yes,
my point about this is like they're tying this all together, like this greater narrative. It's all about the Aesir and the old ones returning. And I think that's how the pits ties into all of this, is that there's this cult that is from the pits but spread throughout all of Wraith, and they're the ones like trying to prepare people for the coming apocalypse. And I expect to see
bad things.
Yeah, I expect to see something like this in every major region. I'm sorry, I'm going on a huge tangent. This is my overall prediction for the narrative for Flesh and Blood, how it's going to go. Every single set that we go to has to do, at some degree, with the return of the old ones and the Aesir. There's always this underlying thing, like there's like this looming presence. It's almost like Lovecraftian in that way. And I think every set is going to touch upon this in some way, and then they're going to have like a big like Avengers type moment where all of these characters from all these sets are going to converge and battle against the old ones that are risen, that are threatening the entire world.
of the Spot. I mean, Wraith.
Yeah, War of Wraith.
But as long as Raul Zarek doesn't die a second time, I'm okay with it.
Exactly.
Oh no, you mean Dak Faden?
Oh yeah, it was Dak Faden. It was the other blue-red planeswalker.
Dak Faden, man.
Oh, yeah.
They always kill my favorite characters. That's another thing. You better not kill Lexi. They always kill my favorite characters in just books that I read. Like, this is a little bit, I don't want to spoil anything. So there's a novel series called War of the Spider Queen. It's a D&D series. It's about the Dark Elves and how they're dealing with the absence of their goddess Lolth. And I'm like, I immediately attached onto two characters. Both of them died. So I'm like, these are my favorite characters. I love them. One of them dies like halfway through, and I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. At least the other guy's alive. And then he dies in the last book, and I'm like, great. And then in this is not that much of a spoiler, but in Game of Thrones, I was like, oh, I really like Ned Stark. He's such like a cool, he's such a cool, honorable character. All these other people are like these honorless scumbags, or they're just doing what they want to gain favor. But he's like honorable, but he has to deal with it. And then like, yep.
Yeah, in like the third episode or something, he gets it. And
yep.
I was talking about this recently, just as a very small side tangent. That the end of Game of Thrones was horrendous, and I hope everybody knows this.
Yeah.
That is spoilers getting into that, but like I respected Game of Thrones for being willing to, in the the third or fourth episode, to be like, yeah, this guy who we've been framing as the main character just dies, just totally unceremoniously. And like that sets the tone for the show.
Publicly executed, and his daughter witnesses it. I'm like, geez, man, come on.
And then they set it up. They set it up in a way where it's like, oh, she'll save him at the last second, and then it doesn't happen. It's like, that's a great way to subvert expectations.
I have more examples of this too. So a lot of people feel pretty negatively about Harry Potter in general these days, mostly because of the author. But a long time ago, I read Harry Potter as a kid, and I liked it. And one of my favorite characters in Harry Potter is a character called Sirius Black, who is this character who is like this kind of gruff character. You think he's evil. He was like jailed up. So he's like someone who was punished for crimes that he didn't commit. And he's just like this really cool character. And I'm like, oh, I really like him. I think he's one of my favorite characters. I mean, spoilers for Harry Potter.
What?
Spoilers for Harry Potter. But he dies. So like, you better not kill... Robbie Wen, you better not kill Lexi. I'm just saying. You better not kill Lexi.
It's a public call out.
Lexi and I like Lexi, like Azalea, I like Arachne. Those are like my 3 like favorite characters right now. Yeah, don't kill. You better not kill Lexi. I could see it happening.
There is that picture, isn't there? There is that nourishing emptiness. We're seeing all the original heroes die, isn't there?
Yeah, Azalea is one of them. Azalea's getting like killed by... Yeah, she's getting killed by dregs, I think. Yeah. Yeah, man. She's getting like ripped. Hers is like one of the more brutal ones because like Katsu has like arrows in him and Dorinthia has like a spear through her, and Azalea's getting ripped apart by like feral beasts. Like it's brutal.
No. I've not noticed that before.
Yeah, man.
There goes my hope for like a pet ranger.
Yeah,
because if that does happen, then now I'm going to be very suspicious.
I can give you some hope though, and this is something I talked about in my video. So talking about the dregs. So the dregs are a big part of the pits. Dregs are what happens to humans in the pits who have been exposed to too much of the poison and toxin. So that's one of the big themes of the pits, is that it's literally like poisonous to live there. The people are just emaciated or dying from all the poison. They basically turn into ghouls, if you know what a ghoul is from Fallout. They're basically they basically turn into feral ghouls. And that's what dregs are. So there's a picture. I have a picture of it because I like Azalea, obviously, and I have a print of it, of a card called Sick'em Shot. And so there's a picture of Azalea firing an arrow in Sick'em Shot, but in the full art, if you see the full art, there's actually, I called them demon dogs before, but they're actually dregs. And they're dregs chained up to Azalea's like belt, and she has them as like pets, as like guardians.
Interesting.
And on top of that, if you look in the lore, one of the gangs uses dregs as pets as well. They use the dregs as they're like chained up. I don't remember, I have to pull out which
Freak shows.
Freak Show, yeah, Freak Show uses them. So that's another thing I expect to see in the camera's really blurry. That I expect to see in Outsiders. I expect to see the dregs in more capacity.
Well, there you go. Yeah, Freak Shows are your token strategy, aren't they? For your gang. You know, your gangs, the Freak Shows, they're your token strategy, summoning dregs and allies and stuff. But
Ravenous
also
Rebel. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Ravenous
if I'm not
Rebel.
mistaken, that's a drag on Ravenous Rabble, right?
I think so. They haven't explicitly said it,
sure.
but I think it is.
Yeah.
Someone thought that Arachne. So I brought up the question in my lore video that I thought it'd be really interesting to have a cognizant dreg. So currently, all we know in the lore is that dregs are mindless creatures that just want to. They're like feral ghouls. They'll just attack on sight and kill anything or whatever.
Yeah.
And I posed the question. It would be really interesting to have a cognizant dreg who can talk like a ghoul in Fallout. And someone posed the suggestion that Arachne actually is a cognizant dreg, and that's what.
I said that from the beginning. Nobody believed me.
Their big hump is like a malformation of the thing.
Yeah.
I think that could be the case. I also think Arachne could be one of the many people from Metrics that are experimented on and dumped in the pits, and that's what that big hump is like a result of like horrible experimentation. That's what my guess is, because they specifically state that they abduct like children from the streets and then experiment on them and then dump them in the pits, and they're picked up by like orphanages and stuff, or they abduct kids from orphanages and they experiment on them and dump them in the pits. And in the young Arachne art, we see them, they have the hump as a kid. So I think it's like maybe they were experimented on and then dumped, and then the spider, who notoriously pick up children and trained them from youth, picked up this child that was experimented on. That's my guess for the long lore for Arachne, is that they were an experiment. From
sense. I can see that.
Yeah, that's my guess. But that's why I think the set's so cool. Is like at surface level, you're like, yeah, it's gonna be like a Mad Max punk set, but there's a lot of like interesting like deep lore with it, and a lot of places they could go, and I think it's gonna be really cool. I'm super excited for it. Oh, I'm so stoked.
I mean, you can speculate for like literally hours on end about what could happen with this, and it's going to be we definitely have trust in the design space of the people that are behind it now. Well, so yeah, I imagine they're going to do a sick job with it.
This is my official Living Legends podcast predictions for the classes: Assassin, Ranger. I'm gonna call Brute now, and I'm gonna call what's the other one? Alchemist. I'll say Alchemist. I want to hedge. I want to give a wild guess. That's a wild guess. So Assassin, Ranger, Brute, and Alchemist. I think those are the four that make the most sense to me. The Assassin, obviously, could be one of the Spider. Could also be a different Assassin, because there's a lot of Assassins in the pits. Brute is one of the mercenaries, or a gang member. So it could be a mercenary or a gang member. The Ranger could also be a mercenary or a gang member, probably a mercenary. And then the Alchemist is an alchemist who sells drugs and potions and all that kind of stuff to the people. I think it makes sense to have a character that's a gang member, a character that's an assassin from like the Spider and Assassin's Guild, a character that is Blackjack Merc, and then like another underworld type person. So I think that makes sense to me, like lore wise, and also like gameplay wise too, because we haven't had Brute since Monarch in a main set. So this all makes sense to me. We also haven't had Ranger since Aria. And I think the big question that a lot of folks are asking is, are we going to get a mech in this set? And I say no, if you think we have a full metric set this year as well. Because if you think we have a full metric set, then they probably have mech in that set and not in this set.
Yeah.
So that is my prediction. Also, you should go buy your mech cards right now, because the second that they're like, we're going to metrics, the second that happens, Teklo Foundry Heart is going to be like $180 or something. Just the same way that Masco Momentum like shot up, it's going to happen. I'm calling it now. If you want to play mech, if you think it's cool, you should probably buy or trade for a Foundry Heart now while it's cheap. Just saying.
Yeah,
just saying.
I actually totally agree. Because like a lot of the mech cards, and I think we've mentioned this a couple times, but mech cards are just generally undervalued,
and they're good. They're good.
Yeah, and they're all really good cards.
Like you should go pick up your mech staples like now. Like High Octane, go buy High Octane. That card is nuts. That card is actually insane. So, and like mech is one of those classes where like some classes you see them go away from some of their like mechanics that we saw initially. So like for Warrior, we had Reprise a lot in Welcome to Wraith, right? There's a lot of Warrior cards with Reprise, but then they kind of like petered out. And a lot of Warrior cards you see now that come out in other sets don't really have Reprise on them as much. But mech feels like very boost heavy for almost all mech cards that aren't items. Like most of them have boost or care about boost. Like,
definitely.
So I have a feeling that just getting boost stuff is like smart. And then along some of the line, Ranger cards. You should probably get some sick Ranger cards as well, like Remorseless, like Skullbone Crosswrap. The last time I looked was like $40. It's like one of the cheapest legendaries you can get.
Yeah, it's gone up.
Probably just get a Skullbone Crosswrap. New Horizon has always been expensive, so that's it's expensive.
Yeah.
But
that one is like it's important to have, but only if you already know that you like Ranger. Because it is an investment. It does very much improve the decks that want it. But I would say that for your money, Skullbone Crosswrap is legitimately just like a fine headpiece for Ranger.
And
Yeah.
Unless you're doing like hardcore double arsenal shenanigans, it also is a piece that just has arcane barrier on it. So like you can always have it in like your sideboard or whatever if you need to have a full arcane barrier set. So it's like it's just good, and it's cheap. I don't know, like as said, if it's gone up. I don't know if it's gone up yet. I can guess.
A few cult members have been saying, "Oh, the Skullbone cross wrap's gone up in price, and etc." I don't know how how much.
Like you should get your 3 of a kinds. You should get your remorselesses.
Get it.
You should get your Skullbones. Probably like a good playset of Bolt and Shot, which I think is probably the best arrow in the game.
Yeah.
So you should if you want to play these things, you should probably get them now before things get official and people snap this stuff up. So yeah,
absolutely.
And then if you haven't gotten your assassin stuff already, might be a good time to get it while it's relatively inexpensive, because I was really hoping that surgical extraction would be affordable, but with another set that's
just
very
still
likely
is not.
to have assassin in it.
No.
So I spent a bunch of money buying all the foils for assassin. I have a full foil playset of assassin cards from Dynasty, like 3 of every single color, every single version, cold foil versions where I can, except for surgical extraction. I have 2, and I refuse to pay like $70 for another one. Like I opened up one, and then I bought another one from Jim from FAB TCG Cards. Shout out to Jim, and the Azalea Cult. Jim's a great dude, and I bought them all from Jim. And I'm like, you know what? I'll buy another one so I can have a full Blitz foil assassin deck and a full UPF foil assassin deck. But I'm like, I don't really play CC as much, so I'll just wait on this. And it doesn't.
See what happens.
It doesn't look like it'll get any cheaper because there's a good chance we get assassin again. And if Arachne gets like legit good, I think Arachne's like fine. But if Arachne gets like really good, then that shit is gonna be like $100. Like, it's nuts.
I don't even know that he requires that much more to be good. I do legitimately think it's another Icelander scenario where right now we have like the outline for the deck, and obviously they printed a lot of things that are just objectively, important for the skeleton of it.
Yep.
But a lot of the cards are just like, this is the baseline for Assassin.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's very easy for them to be like, okay, here are things that have upside. And it's like, oh, okay, now this thing can banish 2 cards, or it has more evasion, or it makes it harder to block your other stuff for the rest of the turn. Or they literally just print one of them that has go again, and the deck like becomes crazy.
Or like some defense reactions would be cool too. Like there's literally no defense reactions. I think building and playing Clash with Arachne was rough, really rough, because you realize how little the class has right now that like isn't relying on the legendaries and majestics. Like Arachne right now really relies on those legendaries and majestics. Like without them, it is brutal. Like it's just like the most fair deck of all time, where everyone else is not fair. Like playing Arachne versus Chain in Clash was like getting like, it's like you're 5 years old and you're getting beat up by like a 30-year-old. That's what it felt like. It's like stop. Like I attack you for 5, and then I pump it up for 3, and I get a silver. Pass turn, and then it's like attack you for 4, go again. Attack you, banish a card, play the card from banish with go again. Attack you, play Seeds of Agony, play another thing, deal you 1 damage, and then attack you with Rosetta Thorn. That was a total of 19 damage this turn. And I'm like,
wow. Yeah.
It's turn. What turn is it? Oh, turn 2. Okay. Cool.
That's ridiculous.
and I have no hand. Draw, pass. Okay. Block all your stuff so I don't die. My turn. Okay. Draw, pass. That's literally what happened to me. It's literally.
Oh, that is literally like, I mean, especially Chain in any sort of like lower. No, I don't want to say lower powered, but lower like card pool format.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that Chain has access to in those are cards that have been banned in wider formats.
Yes. Yeah. So he has Plunder Run. He has freaking Plunder Run as well. And like. I mean, just particular Clash in particular, Clash and Commoner. I love it. Arachne. Assassin's my favorite class right now. I love it. Love it. I love everything about it. but he sucks the big one in those formats, like hardcore. It's like only slightly above merchant, in my opinion. It's only a little bit. And
in Clash, obviously, you have access to his specialization, which can just kill you.
You have Regicide. Yeah. So like this is what it's like. I played against Zach Bunn in the loser bracket. So I won my first round in the loser bracket against Tommy Fresh. He was playing Levia. I beat Levia. Lost to Chain, beat Levia, and then Zach was playing Bravo. And you know what specializations Bravo has? It's a little bit better than Regicide. And so in that format, I mean, like I'm like, I got Regicide and I got Sack the Shifty, and then he's like, activate Bravo, dominate Crippling Crush, and I'm like, block for 3, discard my hand, pass turn, and then he's like, crack
savage.
Then he's like, okay, cool. Then he's like, with a full hand, he's like, crack Goliath Gauntlet, activate Bravo's ability, thump for. What is it? Thump for 6, 7, 8, 9. Thump for 9. Dominate.
Yeah, 9 dominate and discard a card because thump just has extra words on it for some reason.
It killed me. That's what killed me. Crippling Crush, dominate into thump, dominate, pump, killed me. I got him down to like 5, but it was like I'm playing very fair turns. Like I generated 3 silver, and I had a hand that I'm like, oh, my hand is so cool. I had a cash in, and I have some other stuff. I was able to generate a Quicken token off of a even bigger than that turn. So I had all this cool setup, and I was like, okay, so even if he comes at me with something big, I can at least block with my whole hand, keep my cash in, draw 2 cards, get some gas, and go. And he's just like, dominate and kill you. I'm just like, and I was even running Ironhide. Oh. Like I had block. I still died.
Well, there's the hope for Clash support in the next set for Assassin.
Clash is... It feels worse, in my opinion. It feels worse than Commoner for certain heroes because other heroes get way more out of it.
Much more. Yeah.
They get like their majestic fancy weapons, because I think you can have majestic weapons in Clash, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get
I think so, yeah.
You get your fancy majestic weapons, and then you also get your crazy specializations. Like Levia gets freaking Doomsday, so she gets a legendary, and Arachne gets Regicide.
Yeah. which I think isn't possible to do anything with on the format, or I guess you can play the Emperor even though he's a legendary.
Yeah.
You can, yeah.
But like, good luck.
I'm not banishing, dude. I all my cards that banish stuff are like the common ones, so it's like one at a time, and I don't have my Mask of Perdition to get that extra banish, so it's just like there's no way in hell I'm actually gonna do anything with Regicide other than pitch or block with it. I put it in my deck and I played with it out of principle, but I'm like, there's no way. Yeah.
No.
But
Arachne's
really fun. Arachne, for those Assassin faithful out there, Arachne's really fun in Blitz and in UPF, which are the formats that I've played with him so far.
Yeah.
And
we're going to see support, I imagine so, in this next set.
I hope so. I think it's a really good chance.
So, yeah, exactly.
So, Outsiders, it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited for it. One thing we haven't talked about that doesn't really bear a lot of discussion, but every single set, LSS always does something unexpected that I was like, oh, that's weird, or that's crazy. It's one of those things where you expect the unexpected, and I think that's true here. Expect the unexpected. There's probably going to be something weird in here. Like, literally, no one would have guessed Runeblade in Tales of Aria. Like, that was like on the bottom of everyone's list. We literally had Runeblade in Monarch. No one would have guessed Runeblade. Similarly, in Monarch, I remember talking about it. No one would have guessed Brute in Monarch either. Everyone was like, oh, the set's called Monarch, so it's probably about like a kingdom. And so people were like, oh, maybe an assassin could be in the set because they're assassinating a king. And then people are guessing like, oh, warrior for kingdom or whatever. And we got a warrior. We also got a tentacle monster, and no one would have guessed that. So, yeah.
No.
So expect something.
Yeah,
crazy.
Expect the unexpected. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think one of the unexpected calls of Brute being in this set is actually a good call. Actually,
I like it. I think it could be in the set for sure.
Yeah. So,
and I don't think it's just like Hopium too. I think like legit. No. I think it's almost as likely as like Assassin to be in the set.
Yeah.
Just because like they in the lore they heavily mention the gangs, and that's like a big part of the lore, as well as like Blackjack's Tavern. And in the first in the splash art that we've seen, it's a member of one of the gangs. So you can bet there's going to be some gang stuff in there. And I would
bet your bottom copper that it's going to be gangs in the set.
Gangs of Wraith. It's like Gangs in New York.
Gangs of Wraith.
Hope they're wearing like top.
Should we move into Arsenal? Shall we?
Top hat. This is a pretty long episode already, but I mean we're talking about the pits and we're talking about outsiders.
Exactly.
So we've got it's all speculation, and of course we have to get that speculative energy out somehow.
We do have to.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have to get it out.
Not even to talk about the fact that we're going to the pits, and I wanted to touch upon this a little bit because I don't know if it's a direction that LSS is going or if it's just something they wanted to talk about for a week, but we literally had back-to-back LSS stuff about Ultimate Pit Fight. We had a video on their YouTube channel. We had an article on their website, both of them about Ultimate Pit Fight. And I was like,
that's true, yeah.
You know, if they ever wanted to incorporate UPF, the pits makes a lot of sense to have Ultimate Pit Fight, like
true.
Have like a product or something. Like it just makes sense. This is like one of my big hopes, and this is one of the ways I think the LSS could attract a more social crowd, which is honestly how I think you grow Flesh and Blood at this point. Is you attract the social gamers, people who just want to play for fun, who don't give a crap about top 8ing the Pro Tour, who just want to sit down with friends and play some games with cool characters that they like. Ultimate Pit Fight. And so I think focusing on Ultimate Pit Fight, officially supporting it, and officially promoting it is very important and something that it feels like they're kind of already leaning towards with with what I just talked about. So pits, Ultimate Pit Fight. I know they like their wordplay. I just, fingers crossed, we get some UPF official stuff next year.
Yeah, it could be cool. Yeah, good way to do it. Like like an illegal fighting ring or something. In the pits. And
yeah, I think there is like a thing like that in
Fight
the pits
club
too.
Probably.
I remember reading on one of the. So this is going to take me back. So, I want to say there was a allusion or like a reference to some sort of arena in the pits on the lore that I got for spoiling Redliner, because Redliner's a bow. Right. Redliner's a bow from Metrics, but they said it was used by a ranger from the pits, fighting in like an arena type thing. So there's a little bit of precedent.
Okay,
I think there's a little bit of precedent for that.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So, and it was just on the lore drop that they gave me for the card. That's probably like, to be honest, don't go watch my video on that. It's like I think it's my worst preview video. It's before I really stepped it up with Monarch. I stepped it up a lot with Monarch. Yeah, that I think it's a thing. So that's my hope. And then also we have like PvE. There's a lot of cool stuff coming next year. I'm super excited for it. We have whatever the Professor's product is. The only thing we know is that it's a product and that it's not a deck box, is because that's what Prof said on the Instant Speed podcast, that it's not a deck box. So we know it's a product, we know it's not a deck box, and I can tell you that Prof has an eye for quality, and he's a stickler about a lot of stuff. So if it's not going the way he likes, he will tell you, and he's like, no, this sucks. So it's probably going to be a really cool product. And knowing him, it'll probably be geared more towards the players rather than like a fancy investment kind of thing. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming. Yep. Yeah. A lot of cool stuff. 3 sets, possibly 2 additional ancillary products. We already have confirmation that Outsiders will have Blitz decks. They didn't specifically say, but if you literally go into the product page, it lists them. It just says Blitz decks, Outsiders. So, that's really good.
Very intriguing.
My hope, and this is something I was thinking about too, is we get Blitz decks for draftable sets, right? and then we get classic battles sets when the expansion sets come out. So no matter when you start playing Flesh and Blood, there will be a new starter product for you. I think that's really important, and I hope that's a direction they go. So like, no matter what, if someone's playing, like starting the game, you can always direct them to the newest product, and it's relevant. Because if a set comes out every like 4 months or whatever, like right now, right? What's the newest starter product? Well, it's like Uprising, but Uprising's like kind of old at this point. It's been around for like a long time. So if they released a classic battles product with Dynasty, that would have been really cool. And it's also a great place to introduce new characters or different takes on other characters, because it doesn't have to coincide with the main set. You can do whatever the hell you want because it's like an expansion thing. So, I mean, if we had, so we were talking about Azalea earlier and how Az doesn't want Azalea, at least in like the sets. What if they did a classic battles with like Azalea versus someone, like maybe someone she's hunting as like her mark. But it's like, it's not like a crazy fancy Azalea, but maybe it's just like Azalea, like how she is normally, right? With different art, or maybe Azalea, like an updated version with a new talent, kind of like how they did like the updated Dorinthia, but she didn't have a new talent, but it was just, so like slightly upgraded.
Or just a different, just different sort of ability on there or something. Just not talented, maybe.
Or, however they want to do it. I think that could be a cool place to do that. And it would still be like in flavor and stuff. So yeah. Just the battle of the F tier, Azalea versus Levia.
That's it.
Battle of, I'd buy that.
That's what we're all waiting for.
That's it. Yeah.
Someone
assassinating the demon.
Someone had a suggestion of like Arachne versus someone, and it was like them trying to assassinate a target or something. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. Or like assassin versus like Azalea versus Arachne or something. I'm like, oh, now you're speaking my language. Like,
that'd be well good.
That'd be sick.
But what are your speculations? People watching or listening now or in the future, wherever you might be out there in the big wide world, what are your speculations? Drop them in the comments below.
Shadow Mech. Hey, for everyone out there who says, here's my challenge.
Shadow Mech.
Here's my challenge. For everyone out there who says crazy stuff like Shadow Mech, give me your lore reason. Why do you think Shadow Mech will be a thing with like actual like reasons to back it up, other than you think it'll be cool and it makes sense with the mechanic? Because yes, it does sound like pretty broken to have a Shadow Mech banishing things and then playing stuff from your banish zone. But other than like gameplay reasons, what's the actual like in-world lore reason that you have a mech from the Demonastery? Because that's what Shadow is. Shadow is from the Demonastery. You can't just be Shadow because like they're evil. That's not how the talent system works. Talent system works based on region.
And not everybody from the Demonastery has to be evil.
Yeah,
some people could just be misguided or like not file their taxes properly one year. Come on,
exactly.
Hey, Chain.
There's a redemption arc there for everyone, no matter what they've been doing.
Chain is just trying to make the world a better place.
A better place.
By murdering the innocents
Make
of
it
Solana.
a better place.
By
for you and for me.
Summoning horrible teeth demons to feast upon the denizens of Solana. It's all for the greater good.
Teeth demons.
Yeah.
I mean,
the greater good.
There's some teeth demons, man.
For the greater good.
Hey, that's
anyway.
actually what Chain thinks. So,
I'm trying to rail this in, but it's just been so much fun, hasn't it?
Who knows? He could be right though. Like 2 years from now, we could see like Soul come down, and Soul is just like one of those awful, like horrifying, like realistic depictions of angels. Have you seen those? Like the
biblically
real
accurate angels.
The like that's what Soul is, like this horrible, like eldritch monster with like eyes and 8 wings, and it's like oh, succumb to me, like.
That'd be so.
Like Final Fantasy VII last boss, like Sapphire Sephiroth, like loads of wings and stuff.
Like I really dig that theme, actually. Like the angelic beings that are like so righteous that they're actually just awful. Horrible.
It's actually horrifying.
Yeah.
It's Old Testament God, back when being wrathful was in God's playbook.
Yeah, it's like like that old it's like the old Simpson thing where he had a picture of God and he's like, loving God, angry God, loving God, angry God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for today's episode. I mean, we do have a little Arsenal step as well, where we speak about something outside the world of Flesh and Blood. And I believe you had something that you want to mention,
man.
Mr. Red Zone Rogue.
The episode's really long already. I'll keep it really quick. Here's my elevator pitch. So I recently talked to the designer of an upcoming war game TCG. And let me tell you on it a little bit. So first of all, the person making the game is actually from the video game industry. He's a video game veteran. He worked at a company or a game dev studio called Double Fine. Worked on games like Brutal Legend and Psychonauts and a bunch of other stuff. So he actually has like legit gaming development experience, right? And this game is called Grim Path. So it's a TCG where you have minis. The minis will not be random, so it's not like a random booster of minis. You don't get like little gotcha boxes. You just buy whatever mini you want, or you can 3D print your own, or you can use minis that you already have, and that comes into the overall philosophy of low barrier of entry. What was it? Just like low barrier of entry. He wants to make it really accessible. Fun is one of like the key like tenets of the game. Just having like just a ton of fun. And the art is just phenomenal. It has like this AAA polish that it's very rare to see new upcoming games like this, like TCGs, with their own IP. And even like TCGs that come out with like other IPs, they don't look this good. I showed someone a card called Tramp and Rambler, which is like this little cute hobbit, and he has a little thing. And someone's like, oh, is that from the Warcraft TCG? Like, it has that level of polish where someone can assume that it's like a Blizzard, like a Blizzard thing. Say what you want about Blizzard, they have been known for having like very highly polished games, at least in the past, right? When we talk about, we don't talk about newer stuff, but in the past they have. I think it's like one of the most approachable ways to get into wargaming. When I was talking to him for like 4 or 5 hours, one of the things that I was most concerned about were the minis, because I was like, hey, TCGs are a niche thing. It's like gaming is a niche hobby, and then like TCGs are a niche in that niche, and then like wargaming is like a whole other thing. So you're like tapping into like two separate niches here, and wargaming itself, as someone who literally just got into 40K, it's daunting. Like you have to buy the things and then cut all the pieces out of the sprues and then glue them together, and then you have your paints and you have to know what to paint is and like no paint styles. It's just a lot. And he basically said like exactly the perfect things. He's like, we'll have 3 types of minis. You can just buy a pre-made mini if you want, and they won't be expensive because they know a manufacturer in California that can produce high quality minis for like super cheap, like $1, a couple dollars per mini. You can just buy whatever mini you want for cheap, pre-made, not pre-painted, because that's a lot more expensive to do that, but just pre-made. Or we'll have fancier minis that you can just buy that, like, if you want to do the whole process of putting them together and gluing them and all this kind of stuff, we'll have that too. And it's up to you as the player to do what you want. So if you just want to buy a bunch of minis and then play the game, you can do that. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I was like, well, what about game stores who are concerned about having all these minis on their shelf, taking up shelf space for a brand new game? Like I know a lot of people who own game stores and they're not like keen on doing that. And he was like, well, what's great about it is that those game stores can just sell the minis that they already have that aren't selling at all, like all the WizKids minis or whatever, and then just use them in Grimpath, because they're not going to like gatekeep which minis you have. So if you want to 3D print your own, you can do that. If you want to buy minis from your local game store that they already have, you can do that. If you already have your own, you can also just do that, as long as it makes sense for what the card is, right?
Yeah.
And so the way the game works, really quick, is it's a TCG, right? You have a deck of cards. You play cards to summon your minis, right? So you don't already start with them on field. Like you play your card and it summons the mini. Outside of that, the game play feels a lot like a D&D session with minis. So you move your minis X number of spaces that they have, and then you can have cover. You can have high ground. You can have like you can make a little watchtower and put your goblin on the watchtower, and so they get like a high ground bonus when they're shooting down at enemies. It's a point-based game where you win by points. So you first person to 10, you get points by killing your opponent's minis or controlling their side of the field. And standard play is a 10 by 10 grid. But the system scales, so you can play on a 20 by 20, you can play on a massive 100 by 100 if you want. The game is built in a way so you can play however you want. It's very, very consumer friendly, so you can play however you want. If you don't want to use a grid, if you want to use a ruler system, you can do that too. Because the way the game works is it's worded in like, you take a step, right? And then all you have to do is just define what a step is. So usually a step is a square, but if you're playing with a ruler, a step could be 1 inch, right? Standardized, they will have a standardized rule set for like competitive play, which is a 10 by 10 grid, and you play on that. But like I said, you could just do whatever you want. I highly suggested that they make a box set that comes with, there's 4 different like elements or whatever. A box set that has all 4 elements and starter minis and everything for that. And then you could just buy that and play it like a board game. That was my suggestion. I think that would be very, very appealing to some folks, where you just buy the box and you're good to go. People can treat it like a board game. And then if they want to get into the TCG element, if they want to buy stuff to make fancier decks, they can do that. And I was like, I think that would be very successful on Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is very big on like board game type stuff.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, like fully contained experiences.
Yep.
Seem to do really, really well when they're getting crowdfunded and stuff. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. So basically, I'm actually really excited for this. I have not played the game yet. I will be playing it. He's going to be sending me some starter decks. I'm going to try to get these 2 guys some starter decks as well. I don't know if I'll be getting starter minis or anything. We might have to use like other things just to play test it out, because it's still kind of like in an early state. But he wants to go around, he's from California, he wants to go around the US and demo it at LGS's. He's already done it a few times. There's some pictures on their Instagram, but it's just really, really high quality. So yeah, super high quality, made by someone who has years of game dev experience in like a legit, well-respected studio. He was a game dev and animator for Double Fine, like I said, working at Psychonauts and Brutal Legend and maybe some other stuff. He worked there for a long time. You could find, his name is David Gardner, or Dave Gardner. You can find him on the Double Fine website, like talking about stuff. So, yeah, I think it's one of those situations where a game crosses my desk, and I see a lot of card games these days. A lot of people reach out to me about covering their card game. And I don't have time, and this might be cynical, but I'm like, I don't have time to do like free marketing for every single card game that comes across my desk. But I really think this one is special. It has a level of polish way beyond most of the other games that I see. It gives me the same kind of like, ooh, this could be something that I got when I first saw Sorcery, for different reasons. And I think it occupies a unique space. There have been grid-based TCGs, but I think this one is different enough, and it will play different enough and feel more like Warhammer, well, more like Kill Team for Warhammer, or like a D&D session than any of the other games. So that's what I talked about. Probably gonna have a video on it. It might already be out by the time this goes live, but I don't think people should sleep on it. I think it's really cool, and if that interests you at all, if I say TCG war game with minis, it's fantasy. If that interests you at all, I recommend checking it out. You just look at the art. You can see like the level of attention and care that goes into it. So, yep, that's
really excited to try it out and see what it's all about.
Yeah. So, I'm also very excited. I'm going to rope my partner into play testing it with me, just like I did with Flesh and Blood when Flesh and Blood was first coming out, and just how I did with like Sorcery and all this other kind of stuff. Because I like a lot of games. I play a lot of games. I generally like games. I mean, that's what I do for a living. So I generally like games, even if I'm a little critical of them. But my partner Robin, she will flat out be like, "This is boring," or something like that. Like, or if I ask her afterwards, if I'm like, "Did you like it?" and she's like, "Eh," that means it's not good. If I ask her like, "Hey, did you like it?" and she's like, "Oh, it's all right," it's probably pretty good. And then if I say, did you like it? Would you like to play again? And she's like, yeah, I'll play again. If she will play a second time, I know the game is probably really good. So like, for example,
the Robin barometer.
Well, she's like, she's just like,
Robometer.
she likes board games and she likes games, but she's not like hardcore into it like me. So she has like this, she has like, in my opinion, like the ideal perspective of just like someone who likes games, but's not so enfranchised in it that they're gonna be heads over heels off of just any kind of cool game that comes out. It has to be like really good for her to be like into it.
Has to be compelling enough.
Yeah, like, and the only games recently that she actually would play multiple times with me after we played the first time is Flesh and Blood. When we first played Flesh and Blood, she played a couple times. She beat me, by the way, the first time we played. I was playing Katsu, she was playing Dorinthia. Grand Archive, we played a few times. And then Sorcery, we played a lot. She really liked Sorcery. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's that tabletop vibe, isn't it? That's the thing. It's can play as a board game, basically, if you got all the stuff.
It's games that focus on fun over mechanical complexity, because I think you can do both. Like Flesh and Blood does mechanical complexity pretty well, and it's still pretty fun. But like something like Sorcery is like very flavorful and very fun. But in a board gamey kind of way, where my example is like you can like cast spells that like flood the world and drown all the armies and stuff, like cool crazy stuff like that. So I think
a lot splashier. Yeah,
I think Grim Path can have those kind of experiences where like you have like these like moments that you remember, like these very like what's the right word for it? Not procedurally generated, but like these like genuine moments. So anyway, I said it would be short. I talked too much, but yes, Grim Path. I'm pretty excited for it. It's very rare that I come across a game of this quality, and I think it is quality. And I think people who like D&D or want to get into war games or anything like that will be super into it. We talked about Dungeons and Dragons a lot when we talked about the game, and I told Jim about it, and Jim's like, "Oh, it looks like my D&D group could be into this," and I was like, "Not your buddy Jim, not your brother Jim, other Jim, other Jim."
Jim from Fab TCG Cards, which of course is such a nice and easy, quick moniker.
From Fab TCG Cards. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, my D&D group could be into this," and that's exactly what I was telling Dave. I was like, I think a good marketing for this would be marketing it more towards D&D groups or people who want to get into wargaming, not necessarily like the MTG or Flesh and Blood grinders. They might not be into this kind of thing, but I think it could appeal to a much wider audience. So
nice. Well, stay tuned on. Stay tuned to Red Zone Rogue's channel for that then, because he's going to do some videos on it, I expect.
Yeah, one video kind of do an overview, and then I probably won't do another one until I actually play it and can give my actual gameplay feedback. So, because that's important. That's important to me. It needs to be fun.
Definitely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah.
Cool. That rounds it off for this week then. Been a bit of a long one, but a good one.
Almost like 2 hours. Almost like 2 hours. It's been a while since we had like a 2-hour episode.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, well, we're just getting back to our roots.
Yeah,
getting back to our roots. But before we go, we'll just do a quick round table again before we cap it off. So, Bill, where can people find you, sir?
Well, I'm Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on Twitter at BillTSF. I don't use it all that frequently. I realized that I've been plugging it like pretty consistently, and I think my last tweet was like 4 weeks ago. But if exciting things do happen, and they will be happening soon, specifically our Goliath Gauntlet series, I think I mentioned last week, will be making a really meteoric return at the beginning of 2023. So, be sure to check that out. And where you can find the Goliath Gauntlet series is on our YouTube channel, which is Spike Feeders FAB. That's Spike Feeders FAB. And we do live gameplay content. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, but as I said, we'll be hitting the ground running in Q1 2023. So please feel free to check that out if that interests you.
Nice. Yeah, do that.
Excellent. And absolutely. And Mr. Red Zone Rogue, where can they find you? Obviously, they're watching this on the channel now, but hey ho.
Most likely.
Otherwise, we're just leaving him out. It doesn't feel as
most
good.
likely. Though you could be watching it on the podcast, the audio version.
Or listening to it.
Which we do have, and I do include in the description of every single video if you're watching this on the video. If you'd like to consume it as a podcast, I do have links down below, RSS link, like there's all that kind of good stuff. So, as well as links to both of these fine gentlemen to their YouTube channels and stuff as well. And yeah, I'm Kel, Red Zone Rogue, and you can find me at all of the Red Zone Rogue places, mostly YouTube and Twitter. Instagram, I literally check like maybe once a day, literally to make a post, and then I have it set to auto post to my Facebook, which I use even less. But I'm like, it's like two posts. I've been doing if you want to follow me on any of those places, I've been doing 25 days or 24 days of Fabness. So every single day, I have been opening up a booster pack of Welcome to Wraith, just sharing with it, but doing like a little blurb. I'll do like a little saying, like a little thing. So yeah, there's that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And I've been Az, your host for today. And I'm from Go Again Gaming YouTube channel. And you can find me on there. And you can find me on Twitter at Go Again Gaming AZ.
Let's get Az the 2K. He's already hit 1K.
Oh, here we go.
Az the 2K. Let's go. Az 2K. Let's go.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But yeah, it's been a good episode. Thank you very much for everyone who's tuned in. Make sure you leave your speculations as to what we could see in Outsiders in the description box below as well.
Yeah.
Because we'd love to hear them and see them. Apart from that,
I've been giving folks a keyword to say at the end of my videos to see if they watch to the end. And it's been awesome.
That's a good idea.
So for this episode, we should give them a keyword. I'll let you guys choose the keyword. Just to comment, incorporate it in your comments and predictions. I love to go through them and see who watched all the way to the end. This is a long episode, so if you watch like all 2 hours, fisticuffs,
fisticuffs. All right then.
Fisticuffs is the word. Say it down below.
Fisticuffs is the word.
It's a good
so
one.
if you include that in your comment, then we know that you got this far and you're an absolute hero.
Yeah,
so
a legend,
a living
legend.
A living legend.
Beat me to it.
Yeah.
Well, brilliant. Other than that, though, have a lovely day wherever you might be watching in the world. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.